French President Emmanuel Macron says decisions about Ukraine cannot be made without Ukrainians. His comments came as US leader Donald Trump suggested a peace deal could see a swapping of territories between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country would not give its land to occupiers ahead of a meeting between the US and Russian presidents next week.
The US president got in a round of golf today, ahead of a week in which he hopes his diplomatic moves won't end up in the rough. Announcing a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska next Friday to discuss a peace deal in Ukraine, Mr Trump was asked if Kyiv would have to cede lands to Moscow.
You're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both.
President Trump оголосив про підготовку своєї зустрічі з Путіним.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who will not be in the room when the US and Russian leaders meet, said Ukrainians would not gift their land to the occupier in violation of the country's constitution, with scepticism among many in Kyiv that the talks can achieve peace. If we give up our territories, this woman says, President Putin will just want more after a while. How can you decide about Ukraine without Ukraine being there, this woman says. Tonight, the Ukrainian president, described as constructive, talks today between security officials from Ukraine, Europe and the US, hosted by the UK, saying Kyiv's arguments were heard and dangers had been taken into account. Fiona Mitchell, RTE News.
For more on this, we're joined now by James Waterhouse, BBC's Ukraine correspondent. James, thanks for speaking to us tonight. Swapping of land comments by Mr Trump bear one or two echoes of the Putin playbook, do they not? What do you think is at play ahead of these talks?
I think that's exactly right. I don't think Ukraine is coming to these talks from a position of particular strength. I don't think Donald Trump is particularly interested in the detail of a ceasefire and eventual peace deal. He clearly is impatient, he always has been, to end this war in any way. There has often been talk of his desire to win a Nobel Peace Prize. And just hearing the president there talking about a swapping of land, there are reports that Russia could be given. Ukraine would cede the rest of the Donetsk region, for example. I mean, Russia is still calling for the complete control of 4 provinces. That would amount to cities the size of Dublin, Galway, Limerick, being handed over, cities that have been defended staunchly for the last 3.5 years. So I think if you're Ukraine and you're not involved in this first round of meetings, it's a worrying start point.
Yes, and so that does beg the question, what then for Zelensky and Ukraine if they're handed a fait accompli by these two leaders that they don't agree to?
At the moment, I can't see President Zelensky agreeing to anything where land would simply be handed over. Ukraine has had a painful 11 plus years of Russian aggression where the West hasn't taken a tough stance on Russia when it's come to sanctions or military efforts, certainly in the eyes of Ukraine. And clearly the Kremlin has felt emboldened by that, which led us to the full-scale invasion. We also haven't seen, if you're President Zelensky, you haven't seen any concrete measures taken by Donald Trump. He has given India 20 days to change course before slapping it with significant tariffs for buying Russian oil and gas, but that hasn't happened yet. So that might be propelling Vladimir Putin to Alaska. But at the moment, if you're Volodymyr Zelensky, he has to straddle standing firm without antagonizing Donald Trump because he still needs the weapons that he so far has given the green light to for NATO to supply to Ukraine directly. So he's in a very difficult position, and I wouldn't bank on any progress until we see the leaders of both Ukraine and Russia in the same table, willing to negotiate seriously.
Yes, indeed. The BBC's James Waterhouse, thank you for speaking with us tonight. Thank you, James.